Beneath elected leaders and public systems lies a hidden web of power, unelected forces shaping policy, controlling wealth, and silencing truth. These shadow governments, known as the deep state, operate beyond law and transparency, manipulating nations from the shadows while the world watches surface politics, unaware of the deeper game being played. Rain hit the broken windows of the old rail office as a tall figure stepped inside. His coat was soaked, his face hidden. Without a word, he placed a worn folder on the rusted table. Inside were old photos, some black and white, some newer. The same people appeared in every one: bankers, politicians, and military leaders. Different years, same faces. A name showed up again and again: Ardent Systems. Monroe thought it had shut down years ago, but the papers said otherwise. It now owned power plants, news channels, and food companies. One photo showed a senator, listed as dead, walking into a hidden building in the Swiss Alps. Armed guards stood at the gates. The light in the room flickered, then went out. When it came back, the stranger was gone. The folder was heavier. Inside was Monroe's passport, dated 3 days from now. One-way flight, no return. He stepped back, heard a soft click. Under the table, a small device blinked red. Not a bomb, a recorder. They hadn't invited him in. They had been watching all along, testing, and now it has already begun. The room smelled of dust and rusted metal as a cold wind slipped through the cracks. A faint knock, then silence. The door opened slowly. A tall figure entered, coat heavy with rain, gloves still wet. He placed a thick envelope on the table and stepped back into the shadows. Inside were files stamped with fading seals, CFR minutes, banking ledgers from Venice, old Gladio memos. A map followed, marked with red circles: Tehran, Santiago, Brussels, each tied to coups, bombings, and silent deals. A photo showed a meeting in Switzerland, suits with no names, one of them linked to the Rothschild family by blood, another seen at Bilderberg. Pages described false flag attacks staged to shift public opinion, signed by names later found in the CIA's own family jewels. Monroe read quickly, each line confirming what whispers only hinted at. Then came the last paper, a list of agents marked for silence. His own name was fourth. He looked up. The stranger was gone. The light above him flickered once. A small red dot appeared on his chest, unmoving. The truth was real, but someone had just decided he wouldn't live long enough to speak it. Wind slammed broken glass as Monroe waited under a weak yellow light. At 2 a.m., the door creaked. A tall man walked in, coat soaked, face hidden. He dropped a metal folder on the table and stepped back into the shadows. Monroe opened it. Inside were papers, old files, strange codes, faded maps. One page showed missing money, $21 trillion gone in just a few years. Another listed secret flights, hidden cargo, private groups moving weapons across borders. Names changed, but patterns stayed. New labs, foreign bases, quiet deals. One sentence was underlined: endless war brings steady power. Photos followed: burned cities, hidden meetings, test sites. Big companies kept showing up: Lockheed, Raytheon, others. A speech from 1961 was marked in red, Eisenhower's warning. At the bottom was a small drive labeled Polaris X, glowing faintly. Monroe reached toward it. A red light touched his chest. Behind him, boots shifted. The man wasn't gone. He was close now. A low voice whispered, "Peace is their enemy." The light blinked off. Silence returned. In some far place, another deal was signed. Factories would run again. Another mission. New faces. Same goal. No truth, just war. Thunder shook the walls as Monroe stepped into the quiet records room. A tall man stood near the far corner, face hidden under a dark hood. Without speaking, he dropped a thick folder on the steel table, then disappeared into the shadows. Monroe opened it. The first page showed the Federal Reserve, described not as public, but as a private group shaping the nation's money. Next came drug company files, settlements, legal shields, and a note on Pfizer's protection during global outbreaks. Deeper inside were ownership charts linking BlackRock and Vanguard to energy, food, housing, and technology, together holding over $20 trillion. One diagram revealed they owned shares in each other. An Oxfam report dated 2023, circled in red, showed 1% owning 45% of all wealth. A final sheet held a contract with Monroe's name printed clearly. Role, advisor. Department, risk. Start date, listed as today. He stepped back. A quiet click sounded. The door was sealed. A faint mist began filling the room. On the wall, red letters appeared. Control needs silence. As the air grew thin, Monroe realized he had never been a guest. He was an asset, and the system never leaves loose ends. Ash drifted through the air as Monroe climbed the stairwell of an abandoned satellite station. The city below was silent, too silent for midnight. Inside, a projector hummed. A stranger sat in front of it, face hidden beneath an old Cold War mask. He stood, handed Monroe a flash drive, and vanished without a trace. Monroe plugged it into the terminal. Footage began playing. Not past wars or foreign leaders, but boardroom meetings with blurred figures, each controlling digital switches. One screen showed language algorithms altering news in real time. Another displayed biometric scans of school children uploaded without consent. He watched a map light up. Each glowing point marked someone flagged non-compliant. The system wasn't military, political, or financial. It was synthetic, autonomous, learning. A final video file opened with a familiar login ID, his own. It showed him walking into this building 10 minutes ago, driving already in hand. But he hadn't brought it. The feed fast-forwarded. His lifeless body lay beside the projector. Then the clock in the room stopped ticking. Behind him, the terminal spoke. Loop complete. Subject replaced. As the light blinked red, Monroe understood. He had never come here to discover the system. He was here to be overwritten. Monroe stepped into the cold news building just past 3 a.m. The lights flickered. Dust floated through the air. A man in a black coat stood by the wall, holding a small case. He said nothing, left the case, and vanished into the dark. Monroe opened it. Inside were old papers marked Mockingbird. The files listed names, famous reporters, all working with the agency. Another folder showed how 6 big companies controlled nearly every news station in the country. There was also a USB drive. Monroe plugged it in. It showed how websites were set to hide posts that didn't match the plan. Some words were blocked, some voices were erased. A study from a top school showed fake stories spread much faster than the truth. Monroe's own story about secret deals had been removed without warning. At the bottom of the case was a phone, one name on it, Director. He tapped the screen. At once, the screens in the room came alive, showing a live video from his home. His own voice played back. He'd been watched the whole time. A sharp sound behind him. Someone cut the power. The room went black. The truth never made it out. The office was quiet. A man walked in, said nothing, and dropped a folder on the desk. Then he left. Rourke opened it slowly. Inside were old photos. JFK in a car, Martin Luther King marching, Malcolm X at a microphone. Next to each picture were short notes. Taken out, removed, covered. One page listed thousands of names, people who had seen or known too much. Most were now dead. Another sheet told of a rich man named Epstein. It said he had secrets but died in jail before he could speak. Then came a story about a reporter, Michael Hastings, who died in a strange car crash. His last message said he was scared for his life. Many others were marked the same way, gone before they could talk. Rourke turned the last page and felt a chill. It was his own photo, with today's date printed below. A red stamp read, "Next." He stood up fast, heart racing, but the lights flicked off. Footsteps came from the hallway. He reached for his gun, but the door opened before he could move. The file had been a warning, and now it was too late.
For second part of the video, subscribe our channel. Also like, share, and comment on our video.